Hey everyone, welcome back. Here's another recap in under 15 minutes. Make sure to hit like, share it around, and subscribe for more. Let's begin with the part 2 of Anya's story. In the beginning, Yor wrapped up her mission like it was another day at the office, called in her success, and walked home with groceries, completely unaware a bullet had tagged her on the way out. She walked through the door, sore and moody, and Lloyd just assumed she was having a bad day in the market. Meanwhile, Anya, being the little mind reader she was, already knew the real reason behind that storm cloud expression. The next morning, Yor still looked like she had slept on nails, which only made Lloyd think he was failing as a husband. In true Lloyd fashion, he decided a date was the cure, and Yor, half delirious from pain and half distracted by office gossip about marriage, agreed. Anya wanted in, but Lloyd shut her down and tossed her at Frankie, who accepted babysitting duties like it was his chance at fatherhood practice. Lloyd went overboard planning dates, but Yor could not sit without wincing. He dragged her to places, convinced her silence was disappointment, while she just tried not to bleed through her dress. Anya and Frankie put on disguises that fooled no one, yet Lloyd humored them. At dinner, fate played its joke when the last angry survivor from Yor's mission showed up as a waiter. His attempt at poisoning her only dulled her pain, which ironically cheered her up. His follow-up bomb plan was a comedy of errors, made worse by Anya secretly messing with him. He fainted, traumatized by a psychic child, and left crime forever. Yor smiled for the first time. Lloyd thought his plan worked, and Anya patted herself on the back. The next morning, though, Yor limped around again, leaving Lloyd as confused as ever. Bond stretched out on the couch like it was his throne, but his gift for gloomy visions decided to ruin the moment. He saw a flash of darkness and immediately jumped to the conclusion that this was his last chapter. In his head, his family was already crying over him, yet the dramatic dog accepted his tragic fate like some fluffy hero. Wanting one last goodbye, he waddled over to Anya, who dismissed him faster than a boring cartoon. He tried Yor next, but she only apologized for forgetting his food and promised to cook dinner. That was the real horror, because in Bond's mind, her cooking meant instant death, and refusing would unleash her wrath. Desperate to survive, he slipped out and tracked Lloyd, who was in the middle of stealing a fancy serum called Girulimus. Lloyd raised an eyebrow at his sudden appearance, but decided the dog wanted revenge for Project Apple. The two infiltrated the lab like a secret agent duo, with Bond pulling clever stunts to expose enemies before Lloyd knocked them down. They escaped with the serum, and Bond relaxed, already picturing a safe, edible meal from Lloyd's kitchen. Back at Eden, Damien dragged himself through the day after burning midnight oil. His punishment chores trapped him at school, but his friends refused to leave him behind. Their loyalty caught Henderson's sharp eye, and he noted the quiet elegance in it. Soon the boys found themselves canoeing, fishing, and nearly going over a waterfall under Mr. Green's watch. Between laughter and clumsy teamwork, Damien realized life wasn't just grades and rivalry. By the time they reached Stella Lake and watched its mirrored stars, the trio had forged a bond even Henderson found worthy, no matter how short Damien's written report turned out. Yuri and his captain shut down an illegal deal with ease, rounding up every suspect before lunch. Barely resting, Yuri was tossed a new case. Franklin Perkin, a bitter ex-reporter spitting anti-Ostania pieces for Westalis. Yuri looked half dead from overwork, yet he still accepted like it was a gift. He tailed Franklin non-stop, scribbling notes with obsessive focus. His lieutenant told him to rest, but Yuri treated rest as optional. While watching, he saw Franklin bully children for goods and argue with his father about money and wanting a better life. For a brief moment, Yuri almost pitied him, but he burned the thought and stayed cold. Soon, he confirmed Franklin mailed his articles at the post office, always hesitating before sending. Days later, the SSS raided his home. Franklin surrendered calmly, thanked Yuri for sparing his family, and mocked him by asking who was more pathetic, the rebel or the servant. Yuri replied he would never harm his sister and quietly promised help for Franklin's father. Praised back at headquarters, Yuri bragged this job fit him perfectly and vowed to catch Twilight. Later, he basked in Yor's affection while Anya read his thoughts, amused at his single-minded devotion. Anya heard whispers at Eden about the legendary Pastry of Knowledge, a dessert rumored to turn failing brains into genius ones. With quizzes threatening her class rank, she panicked, while Becky added fuel by claiming it came from a former royal chef. Fired up, the girls bolted to the dining hall, only to find Damien and his crew already lurking. Sadly, the last set had been scooped by George Glooman, professional complainer of the school. After enough whining aimed his way, George reluctantly agreed to share 4 macarons. The kids settled it with Old Maid. Anya crushed the first round by reading minds, which instantly made Damien suspicious. To play it cool, she tanked the next game, only to land in the final again. Seeing her eyes well up, Damien caved and let her win, though he pretended it meant nothing. She offered him a bite, but pride had him stomping off. Everyone else enjoyed their treat while Anya hit the books, only to bomb the quizzes anyway. Lloyd spotted her silly spelling mistakes, cooked hamburger steak to lift her spirits, and Yor nearly traumatized Bond with dessert experiments. Meanwhile, Frankie dangled intel in front of Lloyd, demanding help finding a cat named Kopi to impress a woman. Lloyd refused, but Yor swooped in with her terrifying strength, saving the cat after Frankie's gadgets caused chaos. Kopi was returned safely, but Frankie's romantic dreams crumbled when he discovered Casey already had a boyfriend. Shattered, he dramatically vowed to stick to work. Yor, glowing from success, returned to City Hall where co-workers teased her cheerful mood, but her secret phone call as the Thorn Princess hinted at deadlier work ahead. Yor met the shopkeeper in a flower garden that looked peaceful until he decided to swing at her out of nowhere. She dodged like it was nothing, proving once again she was overqualified for his little games. He laid out her new mission: guard Olka Gretcher and her baby from assassins aboard the Princess Lorelei. Yor hesitated, torn between family dinners and secret killings, but the garden had already forged her excuse, so her choice barely mattered. On the way home, she bumped into Yuri, exchanged pleasantries, and then quietly questioned why she still kept this double life. Elsewhere, a mall raffle dangled a cruise trip as bait. Anya peeked into mines, discovered the winning ticket was rigged, and shamelessly grabbed it. At home, she flaunted her prize. Lloyd tried to reason, Yor admitted she was already boarding the same ship for work, and Anya threw a tantrum until Lloyd caved. Conveniently, his boss approved leave, and the forgers prepped for their adventure. At the port, Yor kissed family goodbye before switching to assassin mode. Shadowy figures boarded too, ensuring trouble. Anya marveled at the giant ship, sulked over their cramped cabin, then cheered at bunk beds like it was luxury. Yor met Olka, disguised as Shady Gray, and her ally, Furseal. After securing the suite, she listened to Olka's wish for peace. Graham, the baby, tugged at Yor's heart, making her vow protection. Unaware hidden ears were already listening and plotting. In Berlin, Yor's co-workers gathered at their usual pub, tossing back beer and sausages while gossiping about her cruise. Millie sulked with envy, picturing Yor dining on 5-star meals, while the others were content with greasy plates and cheap drinks. On the Princess Lorelei, Yor sat stiffly at dinner with her City Hall group and the Grey family, who were secretly Olka and her allies. The food was wasted on her and Furseal, both too tense to lift a fork, until Matthew casually reminded her that assassins rarely strike in crowded dining halls. Later, Yor escorted Olka and baby Graham back to their room, warning peace was only temporary. Olka asked if Yor would spend time with her family at the resort stop, but Yor froze, unable to promise anything. Meanwhile, Lloyd and Anya devoured the buffet. Anya shoveled food like a machine, then admitted it felt empty without Yor. Lloyd agreed, only to regret it when she mocked him for being soft. Elsewhere, Matthew caught an assassin, tortured out the truth that multiple killers already knew Olka's identity, and silenced him permanently. The attack came quickly, Yor killing one intruder with her stiletto while Matthew pushed for escape. Disguises became their shield. At the masquerade ball, Yor danced between shadows, knocking out killers without disturbing a single mask. She led the group toward the promenade, unaware Lloyd and Anya were nearby. Anya begged for a keychain, Lloyd worried about spies, and then she overheard Barnaby plotting his strike. Realizing Yor's cover could collapse, Anya dragged Lloyd into ridiculous outfits to stall him. Barnaby lunged, Yor met him head-on, and immediately sensed this opponent was nothing like the others. Yor held the line after saving Olka's group from Barnaby, ordering them to retreat while she handled the fight. His chain lashed out with dangerous reach, forcing her to close the distance, though every step felt heavier, with the crowd pressing in. Panic hit when she spotted Anya cheering loudly, but the girl quickly spun it off as a circus act, saving Yor's cover. Stealing herself, Yor trapped Barnaby's chains, locked his movements, and finished him off. The onlookers erupted in applause at what they thought was entertainment, and Yor dragged the defeated assassin away before anyone looked too closely. Anya dashed back to Lloyd, proud of her secret assist. Lloyd emerged in a ridiculous outfit, hoping for approval, only to be dismissed as hopelessly uncool. Meanwhile, the assassin leader prowled Olka's old room, sniffed out the missing scents, and teamed with the informant to set up their next strike. Later, Lloyd carried a half-asleep Anya back to their cabin, brushing off Yor's absence as work. Yor, meanwhile, guided Olka, Zeb, and Graham to a safer room. Zeb recalled how Olka once gave him food after the war and swore his loyalty again. Matthew soon arrived, scolding Yor for poor signaling and warning her that any slip meant death. Alone, Yor wrestled with her fear of losing her family and questioned her choices. Back in Berlin, Frankie walked Bond while whining about pet sitting, though in his daydreams he claimed the dog as his own. On the ship, Lloyd stumbled through fatherhood, trailing Anya in games and activities while she forgot her plans to help Yor. That evening, she admitted she missed Yor, and Lloyd promised they might see her during the fireworks, unaware assassins were already preparing their ambush. Fireworks burst above as Yor led Olka, Graham, and Zeb toward the storage area for their escape. Without noticing, they passed the assassin leader, who silently followed their trail. Elsewhere, Lloyd lifted Anya onto his shoulders so she could see the sky, while she tried listening for Yor but was drowned out by the noise of the crowd. Every hallway was blocked, forcing Yor onto the deck. A sniper's shot grazed her arm, and assassins rushed from all sides. She fought fiercely, yet the numbers swelled until Matthew arrived, gunning down enemies and opening a hatch for Olka's group. Zeb shielded them from bullets, his vest stopping the rounds, while Yor and Matthew tore through waves of killers. Yor struck with lethal precision, and Matthew cleaned up the bodies, both working like grim professionals under the exploding lights. After Yor crushed two dangerous foes, the assassin leader emerged, taunting her as heartless. His swordsman ambushed Matthew, knocking him out, leaving Yor to fight alone. Weakened by hesitation, she thought of the forgers and her false life, even wondering if quitting was possible. When the leader threatened Olka, her resolve reignited. Shattering the swordsman's blade with her bare hands, Yor declared she would fight, even if it cost her everything. On the roof deck, Yor clashed with the swordsman under the fading glow of fireworks. Below, Lloyd carried a tired Anya back inside, relieved she enjoyed the night but guilty they had not found Yor. Soon, he spotted SSS agents in panic and read their lips, learning about a bomb in the bilge. Anya overheard through his thoughts, and while Lloyd worried about dragging her into danger, she slyly suggested a daycare. After dropping her off, he disguised himself as crew and began disarming the device, calmly taking charge when he realized moving it would trigger an explosion. Anya, of course, escaped daycare. She stumbled across Yor's stiletto, and after a series of clumsy accidents involving assassins tripping over her antics, the weapon rolled back to Yor. With it, Yor ended the duel, striking down the swordsman after a brutal fight. Matthew regained consciousness in time to shoot the assassin leader, saving her. Anya watched, finally reassured her mother was safe. Below deck, Lloyd defused one bomb but quickly uncovered more, including one hidden in a clock. With no time left, he hurled it into the sea where the blast wiped out assassins waiting on a raft. Olka prepared to leave, thanking Yor for giving Graham a future. Yor blushed at the praise, while Matthew reminded her they were only soldiers but encouraged her to enjoy her family afterward. Later, Lloyd carried a sleeping Anya, reflecting on how he kept leaving them for missions yet realizing they were now part of it. At dawn, the forgers readied themselves for their final day on the island. The Princess Lorelei finally reached the resort island, and Anya bounced with excitement like she had just discovered free candy. Lloyd stayed tense with SSS agents nearby, but Anya roasted him that normal dads would join the fun. Forced into character, he jumped awkwardly until they reunited with Yor, who brushed off her injury with a flimsy excuse. With her mission over, the forgers dove into vacation mode, trying zip lines, bikes, horses, caves, and beaches. Yor watched Anya's joy and quietly wished it could last forever. When Anya begged to snorkel, Yor hesitated with her wound but slipped on a rash guard and joined anyway. They snorkeled and surfed until Yor accidentally yeeted Anya into the sky. Lloyd barely caught her, leaving Yor mortified while Anya laughed it off. By day's end, Yor collapsed against Lloyd's shoulder, earning quiet praise for trying so hard to enjoy the trip. After the cruise, they returned home where Bond tackled Anya and Lloyd tossed Frankie a souvenir. Lloyd later met Sylvia, confirming the bombing was tied to fake passports and buried by SSS, though she warned him to stay sharp. Lloyd admitted the vacation drained him more than missions. Back home, Yor, Anya, and Bond slept peacefully, Anya clutching her drawing of their adventure. Yor handed souvenirs to co-workers who complained but accepted anyway, while Yuri practically threw a party for her safe return. At Eden, Anya bragged about the trip, only to embarrass herself when classmates mocked her tall tales. Becky comforted her, reminding her it was fine to want to shine, and later at home, after advice from Lloyd, Yor, and Yuri, Anya swore she would try being honest. At home, Becky watched a sappy drama and immediately thought of Lloyd, deciding love clearly waited for no one. Spotting a photo of the forgers, she called Anya with a fake excuse about being nearby, when in reality she was plotting to confess. She showed up soon after, leaving Anya suspicious. Lloyd greeted her politely and thanked her for being a good friend, which nearly made Becky melt on the spot. Martha dropped her off with a warning to behave, which was wasted breath. Anya gave Becky a tour, only to realize Becky thought their home was small. Becky then asked about Yor, and when told she was out with Bond, her imagination spun wild marriage fantasies. Anya, reading every thought, decided to help, nudging Lloyd to humor her. Lloyd played along politely, slipping in questions about her father's business, while Becky blushed at every word. When Yor returned, Becky unleashed cheesy drama moves to win Lloyd, but none worked. Yor served tea, and Becky faked being tipsy to lean on Lloyd. Yor panicked, assumed alcohol was involved, and sprinted to a hospital with Becky in tow. After getting hit by a car and recovering midair, she caught Becky safely. Horrified and guilty, Becky confessed the lie, while Yor just sighed in relief. Later, Becky asked why Lloyd married Yor. Yor recalled him calling her strong, which Becky interpreted literally. At a strongman game, Becky failed to impress, while Yor accidentally shattered the machine. Convinced Lloyd liked strength, Becky begged Yor to train her, and Martha later caught her practicing punches. At home, Lloyd invited Anya to join him and Bond for a walk, but she decided folding origami was a higher calling. At the park, Lloyd trained Bond with Frankie acting as the unlucky test dummy. Bond struggled with commands and looked miserable, dredging up memories of Project Apple. Frankie advised Lloyd to loosen up and make training fun, so Lloyd switched gears and led Bond on a city stroll. Back home, Anya awarded herself a paper Stella, which promptly fell off like it knew better. As they walked, Bond began seeing visions. First, he tried saving a boy's ice cream but only caused it to fall, earning tears. Lloyd smoothed things over with a bigger cone. Next, Bond pulled an old man out of a bike's path but got scolded for biting. Soon, Bond saw fire in an apartment and a woman crying for her dog, Daisy. Breaking his leash, he rushed in with Lloyd right behind. Together, they rescued Daisy and escaped the flames. Outside, Bond bit a suspicious man, exposing him as the arsonist. Lloyd handled the rest, calling police before slipping away. Later, Lloyd praised Bond, admitting he should be treated as family, not just a tool. Bond glowed with pride. Returning home, Anya read Lloyd's thoughts and proudly handed both him and Bond paper Stellas. The day closed with glimpses of side characters before the forgers shared dinner, while Bond proudly rested with his award.